Dear friends, recently on the Chinese website 163.com said, the geographical disadvantages of the United States and India are obvious, and China's geographical advantages far exceed those of the United States and India. Degree. Below we would like to quote the post of website 163.com to invite you to listen. If you want to compare the geographical locations of major countries in the world, most people should think that the United States and India are the countries with the best geographical locations in the world, while in comparison, the geographical locations are the best in the world. Our country's laws are worse, but is this true? I admit that the geographical position of the United States and India is very favorable, but China's geographical position is not worse than them, even much better than that of the United States and India. However, when assessing the geographical position of our country is underestimated. The editor once wrote an article comparing the geographical advantages of China and the US. You can see details at, the United States' geographical disadvantages are too obvious, and China's geographical advantages far exceed those of the United States. This article aims to analyze the geographical advantages and disadvantages of China and the United States from a different perspective, while also talking about India. Let's start with the plains and coasts. Let's talk about deltas first. It can be said that the delta is the birthplace and development of all civilizations, such as the four major ancient civilizations all originating from the delta area. Our country's civilization originated from the East Hunan Plain in the Central Plain. The ancient Babylonian civilization originated from the Mesopotamian Plain. The ancient Egyptian civilization originated from the alluvial river delta. Nile, ancient Indian civilization originated in the Indus Delta and the Ganges Delta. Therefore, it can be said that the delta is the cradle of civilization. Why are mountainous areas so poor? A very important reason is that the economic model in mountainous areas is still limited. It is difficult to develop agriculture and industry, and is not suitable for modern urban construction. Taking our country as an example, if you look at the economic distribution map of our country, you will see that China's major cities are all located in the main plains of our country. From north to south, Harbin is located in the northeast plain, Beijing and Tianjin are located in the North China Delta, Shanghai is located in the Yangtze River Delta, Wuhan is located in the Jianghan Delta, and Guangzhou is located in Pearl River Delta. In the southwest and northwest regions of my country, the density of large cities is much smaller. In fact, this type of distribution is very easy to understand. The existence of cities depends on the convenience of transportation. The difficulty of road construction in mountainous areas is much higher than in the plains. The cost of building 1 km of expressway in the plains is about 50 million yuan, while in the mountains of Yunnan it costs more than 70 million yuan. If we want to build a highway on the Qinghai Tibet Plateau, there is currently no announced price, and our country may not consider it in recent years. Therefore, if a country has many deltas, or many high-quality deltas, that country's economy will develop better. Not only our country, why is Russia's progress unstable? In addition to the cold climate, the Far East is mainly mountainous, not suitable for the formation of large cities. The total population of the giant Far East is only 8 million people, not even equal to a city. Average size in our country. The country has become a waste of frozen land. Look at India and the United States. India's land area is less than 1/3 of our country's area, but India's plains are vast, accounting for 40% of the total land area, with the highest arable land area in Asia. Very good climate, belongs to the tropical region. Monsoon climate, crops can be harvested 3 times a year or even a year, cooked 4 times. So India really doesn't have any problem with food production. The US plains are larger than India, accounting for 50% of the US land area. Not only does it have a large area of arable land, but it also leads the world in food production. Our country's delta accounts for only 12% of the land area. Because the delta area is larger than our country, are the geographical advantages of India and the US better than our country? Of course not. What is the geographical location of China? Everything needs some level, not too much is good. The same thing happens with delta area and coastal length. Why does India have a caste system? Just read Indian history and you'll know. It is because there are so many invaders in India. And it is because India has so many plains and is so open that India is completely defenseless. A slightly weaker regime will soon be overthrown by a powerful invader, and a new regime will reappear, so it is easy for India to fall into such a cycle. India, give a simple example. For example, A invades the Indian mainland, defeats the local indigenous people, and becomes the ruling class. B defeats A and becomes the new ruler. C defeats B. In this way, the original natives, A and B, are both defeated by C. After ruling, the caste system gradually formed. Our country is no exception. The Central Delta has always been a battlefield for military strategists. The Central Delta region often has wars because of its rich produce and convenient transportation. Whoever wins the Central Plains will win the world, according to the consensus of the entire force. Whether it was the decisive battle between King Wu and the Zhou dynasty or the main battlefield between Chu and Han, Hunan was still the main battlefield. Thereafter, the focus of the Wuhu Rebellion, Ungshi Rebellion, and Taiping Peasant Rebellion were all in Hunan. The basic reason is the geographical location. Hunan is almost completely covered by plains, is the granary of our country, there are no defensive dangers around, so of course it will become a place for powerful forces of all classes compete. But if you look at China as a whole, you will see that China's plains are surrounded by mountains or plateaus. From the complete topographic map of East Asia, we can directly see the extent of China through the topographic map, which is indeed very strange. And this map has 6 words written on it: protect Chinese civilization. Compared to India, our country is located in the highlands, making it easy to defend but difficult to attack. Our country threatens India with a cannon, but if India wants to attack our country's inland plains, conventional weapons are almost impossible. In this regard, our country's geographical advantage is better than India's. Looking more closely, in addition to the outer ring from the Greater Xing'an Range to the Qinghai Tibet Plateau, our country also has an inner ring of the Lus Plateau, Chilean Mountains, Hengduan Mountains, Yunnan Guizhou Plateau. If our country's delta is protected both inside and outside, will the people be able to live and work in peace and happiness? If Xinjiang and Tibet are both plains, without mountains or plateaus surrounding them, then once chaos breaks out in India and Central Asia, it will definitely affect our country and lead to large wave of refugees. Therefore, although the plain is good, it must also have barriers to protect it. Although the Indian plains are vast, the surrounding defenses pose no danger, like a strategic handicap. Once invaded, it is easy to be pushed to the bottom without strategic room to maneuver. Although America also has many mountains, its major cities are mostly located on the east and west coasts, and the central plains are flat and invincible. The terrain of America and India is like building a beautiful house but not installing doors or windows. Anyone can enter, and pigeons can take over the pigeon's nest at any time. Look at the map of North America. From the map you can see how desperate Americans are over illegal immigration. Without the protection of the mountains and plateaus on both sides of the country, how can America prevent illegal immigration? So from this perspective, China's overall national weighting is actually the optimal solution. Looking back at the beach, not only the delta, but also the length of our country's coastline is not as long as that of India and the United States. The overall map of India looks like a nail driven into the Indian Ocean, surrounded on both sides by the Indian Ocean. The United States borders the Atlantic Ocean to the east and the Pacific Ocean to the west, with a coastline of more than 22,000 kilometers. The length of my country's coastline is only 18,000 kilometers. But unlike India and the United States, although China has only one coastline, our coastline security is much higher than that of the United States and India, because the biggest problem with the coastline is the seas of the United States and India have too many coastlines. Some islands at the door, taking the United States as an example, both mainland sides have no islands and lack maritime barriers. In this way, the United States feels very insecure, so it can only spend huge amounts of money to build a navy and establish military bases around the world. To blockade our country, the so-called First Island Chain and Second Island Chain were created. But looking back, the First Island Chain may not be the guardian island of China's coastal cities and our country's unsinkable aircraft carrier, floating on the sea. Objectively speaking, many islands in front of our country are magic islands, given to our country by God to protect the Chinese people. However, in modern times, our country's national strength has decreased. Foreign powers took the opportunity to invade and occupy, turning them into an anti-China stance. This is the greatest advantage of our country's coast. By mastering the First Island Chain, we can prevent all forces from invading our country from the sea. Could it be that not having a strong enemy outside is really an advantage? When people refer to the geographical location of the United States, they often say that the United States has no strong enemies around and is in a great location. But is that really the case? Of course not. As we mentioned before, it is difficult for the United States to stop illegal immigration, although Latin America does not have any powerful countries, but through immigration, South America is dividing the United States. From this perspective, the United States' foreign enemy is not a specific country but Latin America, which has a population of hundreds of millions. America cannot fight these people. It can be said that refugees are the strongest force in the world. Illegal immigrants flood into America. At the 1998 CONCACAF Gold Cup, although the host was the United States, Mexican fans in attendance raised the Mexican flag and booed the Stars and Stripes. Although they had immigrated to the United States, they had no real sense of national identity. Another example is that on June 5, 2021, Mexican high school students in the United States flew the Mexican flag during their graduation ceremony and refused to identify themselves with the United States. The important cause of all this is that the United States lacks the protection of the plateaus and mountains. Even if God blesses the United States and gives the United States the strongest military power in the world, it will not can prevent the tendency of immigrants to be divided. Let's talk about America's biggest weakness. The United States is located on the North American continent and has a developed economy. But Latin America, which is connected to the United States, is still undeveloped. So from this perspective, the United States is an economic island. If the United States wants to maintain its current position in the world, it can only cut leaks around the world to meet its own economic development needs. However, my country has many neighboring countries, and relying on its economic development has brought neighboring countries together. This is why our country can participate in the One Belt, One Road initiative. To the west, our country can connect Central Asia from Xinjiang to Europe, unifying Asia and Europe to create a unified Eurasian continent. Going south can integrate South Asia and Southeast Asia, integrate all of Southeast Asia into China's economic system, and help our country make further progress. China-Europe cargo ship. Of course, America also understands the truth, so it tries its best to stop the plot to destroy our country. The US is actively manipulating Europe to target our country, basically wanting to divide Eurasia and prevent the Eurasian continent from developing. Because the United States is far away from Eurasia, and most of the world's population is concentrated in Eurasia, and Eurasia is the economic center of the world, and most of the world's money is here. If Eurasia were to unite, the United States would become a completely isolated country. Why does the US do this? This is determined by the United States' geographical location, and the country can only choose to contain China. Compared to the simple environment across America, China has the most neighbors in the world. This is also something that China is often criticized for, that is, we have too many powerful and middle-class countries around us, and the environment is very complicated. However, it is a disadvantage and an advantage. The key depends on your state, whether it is a Qing state or a People's Republic of China state. With our country's rise, no neighboring country can confront our country but will instead be drawn into our country's cooperation system. Unless all of Southeast Asia is unified into one country, there will be a chance of control and balance with our country, but judging from the current situation, this possibility is almost zero. like the RCEP plan that our country proposed, it aims to create an economic circle with our country as the nucleus, covering most neighboring countries, except India. On the contrary, the US is indeed very powerful but cannot implement the US version of RCEP because there are very few countries around the US. Therefore, having many powerful countries around you is a disadvantage or an advantage, it all depends on your own strength. If you have this strength, having many powerful countries around you is not a disadvantage, it means you will have a larger space for economic development. In general, compared with the United States and India, my country's geographical advantage is really obvious. The biggest feature of our country's geographical location is its defensibility, suitable for our country's current development needs. We do not seek world domination, but we demand the continuation of the Chinese nation, demanding a geographical position that is both preventive and progressive. And the geographical position of our country is just right. If you liked this article, don't forget to follow and like it. More interesting content to share with you. Our video will pause here. Please remember to subscribe to the channel to follow us. Goodbye.